Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerd Archives with the Nerd Archivist, our first and foray into Doom 1 and Doom 2 Remastered Edition. We're about to enter the literal bowels of hell. The ungodly place, a site where vast amounts of horrors await us, to be slaughtered by the hundreds, if not the thousands, all because they threaten mankind. And this is where we need to stop them now. So I was very tickled pink when I heard that Doom and Doom 2 got remastered. A couple of days ago of this recording, the date is the 14th of August. Just a couple of days after release, so it's almost been a week since this came out. Bethesda released on behalf of id Software, id the actual parent company and owners. Bethesda is the questionable in-between that goes, hey, we'll sell you this, or that, buy our merch. For better or for worse, Bethesda is the guys that have joint ownership with id Software's baby. But besides that point, I was very excited on hearing that this got remastered. I was one of the lucky few that had obtained Doom 1 and Doom 2 much earlier and prior and got this as a free upgrade. Now, mind you, you too can get this, whether it's on PlayStation or whatnot, or Microsoft. If you have those two original copies of the game, and I know I don't need to be telling you this because you might have already done so, but just in case if you do, and out of morbid curiosity's sake, and as a friendly reminder, if you want to get a hold of the remastered, all you gotta do is, if you happen to have either Doom 1, Doom 2, or both of them, you are eligible for a free upgrade from id. That's right, from id. You just search for this game, it should tell you Doom 1 and Doom 2 Remastered, and it would say just install. Just install it. It's all taken care of. If you happen to have any of the games from prior to the remaster, the game's only $10. You get Doom 1 and Doom 2 along with a lot of extra special goodies. Now, I'm not endorsing this and getting paid for it. I'm doing this as a job as a archivist, and respectfully, I want everyone to enjoy and not miss out on something that I think is a great gem for casual players or private players or what have you. Maybe if you were a longtime fan from long ago, this is a good chance to catch up, re-experience your childhood again, whatever have you. That stated aside, as I mentioned, I was amazed that this game was getting a 30-year anniversary. 30 freaking years of monster slaying. Now, I've never had Doom before. I think I had a cousin. That's how usually most of these stories begin. You don't have the game, but someone older and someone in your family might have let you get onto the computer or showed you. In my case, I barely even played it because of the infamous controversies and the oh my god, it's full of this imagery, oh my god, and oh, the violence and this and that, and all this hullabaloo that the game doesn't really have that much anymore. You know what's dark and funny and ironic? Was that apparently for those Christian naysayers, me being a Christian myself, mind you, for those that were lambasting this, even I knew the game didn't hold anything truly offensive about it, besides the set imagery and such and whatnot, and it was so funny. I found it laughable how people were getting so upset and butthurt by such ridiculous assumptions. There's a reason why I have a huge hate for one man he's been barred from lawyering. One man that has earned my hate for many of years because of the misconception that this game was a murder shooter and stuff, along with other games I loved. That is not true, mind you, because again, the whole political stupid topic that this is supposed to inspire killing is just it is not true. It's not so. It's a horrible misconception, a stereotype, and one man earned my hate for the rest of my life until the day I die is Jack Thompson. He turned Rockstar Games and id into... He basically turned himself into Ahab. Rockstar was his Moby Dick. And anything else that he tried to decry and say, well, this shouldn't be played from kids or anybody. That, like I said, in my opinion, when you get to a certain point of age range where you feel ready that your kids can play, let them play. I mean, I understand the whole parenting thing and stuff, but at the same time, like, I was one of those rare gems where I played and seen a lot of messed up shit, and I never went out and started murdering people and stuff. It just, I mean, I knew it was wrong. There's a understanding that I learned at a young age between fiction and nonfiction, and this was a very awesome fictitious game that I thought was very cool. And considering that, again, that I didn't have Doom growing up, the closest I got to Doom was its rival, and I'm a big fan of that, and hopefully I can play that on the channel soon, is Duke Nukem, because I grew up and loved Duke Nukem. John St. John just being badass, talking to the audience and being goofy with one-liners. Yeah, I'll never outgrow that. That's just a part of me that I remember growing up and playing hours on end, and it just never leaves you. But prattling aside, apologies. Apologies from an old man. Doom Remastered has a treasure trove of games to celebrate its 30th birthday. I'm actually taken aback that it has been 30 years. That this game haunted many a screens via PC and console ports. So as you can see, each one has an inscription and a damn it, what do you call this? A kind of like a little sample mode here. I know there's another word for it. It's not audience mode. Whatever it is, you could correct me. That's okay. I'm a little rusty at that part. A demonstration mode. I think this is a demonstration mode. So you'll see these familiar demonstration modes if you happen to load up floppy versions of the game or whatever have you. And each one gives an inscription of the years and months that it came out during its respective time. And then you got the mods. You got Master's levels for Doom 2, TNT Evolution, the Plutonia Experiment, No Rest for Living, Sigil, Legacy of Rust, that is an original that came out days ago. As I stated, this video is August 14th is when I recorded this. So it's literally almost a week ago. It's just by 6 days old, that this DLC or mod, this free mod came out called Legacy of Rust. And if you go to any of these games, hopefully it's not a little too loud. Let's see. Okay, I think it might be okay, son. If you go into beautiful graphics, by the way, for the remastered stuff. If you go onto here, 1 and 2 will give you single player, multiplayer, mods. I'll show you all the vault as before we kind of get off of this introduction video and into the next one. Options, achievements, and then change games is to change. Well, obviously change the game. I was tickled. I was taken aback. Sorry, I'm gonna mute this for a minute. I think that muted it. I'm not certain. Nope, it did not mute it. Soundtrack is off. I'll leave the soundtrack on. That's pretty badass. Alright, so as I stated before, this game has a huge treasure trove of just so many things for this edition of these editions. I was slack-jawed, like mouth almost hitting the floor, surprised that mods were playable on a console. On a console! This is basically all integrated from the PC ports, mind you. And to actually be playing mods on the system, I think, is almost so surreal and new to me. That's how far behind I am. Mods basically are modified things from the player base that id gave the toolkits and the developer toolkits and such, and said, hey, have a ball and create your own levels and such for the community. And boy howdy did they have over years of time from I've learned. So playing on console I thought was just, an eyebrow raiser. When you browse, you can find anything that you want to play on the list. Some people might try and be sneaky into trying to get certain mods. Like this came out, for some odd reason I can't play My House. I've heard a lot of great stories on it. One of the actual creators and founders and developers from years ago, I remember, played My House and was kind of like a spiritual successor to Doom. So kind of really sucked bullocks that I couldn't play it on this PC. So I don't know if it's limited because of the system. I don't know if there was something wrong with the software. I don't know. But fortunately, though, if you can't play anything else, that's a little too much. It has handpicked from its own archives the majority of the games from the modding community for us to partake, and I happen to have picked a couple for future play privately and, of course, publicly. Like there's Revolution, Scientist, the sequel to Sigil, and all, etc. and etc. Kind of wish that I wanted to play Brutal Doom, and I'm kind of sad I don't see it on here. Though Brutal Doom, I've heard, has gotten its mixed share of overexposure and things like that, by respect. I mean, everyone's opinion has an opinion, right? So it's like, yeah, I kind of see that. To hear Brutal Doom that many times, for better or for worse, I kind of get that. So, it ain't listed. It's not really too known except for the diehards. That's okay. I'm fine. At least I got a couple of these to play privately and, again, maybe on the channel. I really loved that in the options, like everything literally, like as you could see as I'm scrolling through, everything is made for the convenience of the player. If you're playing through traditional mouse and keyboard, id Software got your back. If you're playing through controller, they got your back. If you want to play different resolutions, they got your back. If you want badass soundtrack, not only has this remaster of the duology have some very special little surprises, what we're playing here is classic MIDI synths and such for your computer. You can change to the FM synth with the patch set to mix and match. And one of the biggest eyebrow raisers that were literally bangers, the remix. Yeah, this is where the hardcore soundtracks come in, bringing a lot more atmosphere than just the original. For those that want to add more hidden depths and spookiness to their play. But I prefer the original. One of the things that I thought was cool was when as soon as you started up the game, the first thing you notice on screen is choosing either between remix or the original MIDI synth played on the actual hardware. Sadly, I'm used to the old stuff, so it's like, I'll play on the synth, the MIDI synth. Damn. I'm sorry. I haven't heard this part of the music orchestration. Damn, that's amazing. I have to stick with the original though, I'm sorry. There's so much customization in the options. It even gives you the choice to change up your crosshairs to make things easier to aim if you have always want to run instead of having to hold a key or a button. Again, the game publisher id has your back. You may see Bethesda on it being the distributor, but we know who the real papa is. Oh God, hell, if you want to change the accessibility where, hey, this is just too old school for me, you can change it to modern. Man, oh man, this is insane. Like, I played with some of the in-out options, but that part of accessibility, didn't know it was like that. So, yeah. This is very heavily customizable. Like, actually one of the most devoted customizations for a game that I've seen in years. And I've seen remasters where it's like, yeah, here's high visuals, but, you know, screw y'all, we're not going to make things more sophisticated for more modern stream audience, and yada yada yada. And then, of course, it had a special vault full of treasure troves of Easter eggs and sprites that were later used or were actually never used. Like this right here, the Banshee, wasn't really used until recently in Legacy of Rest. You got blobs, different variations of sprites, and animation sequences that we would see in the final products, like for Zombie Men, the shotgunners or shotgun guys, the chain gunners, and I love that it shows you step by step looks of these animation cycles that were actually hand drawn. And me reading up on a lot of Doom history, just out of just in the spirit of and surprise that it was just 3 decades worth of history. I started learning a lot of things. Like, for instance, you got infamous misconceptions on many of the game. One of them was if id actually used actual photos of hanged people, most particularly of Benito Mussolini as a template to make the very dark, grotesque hung corpses in the game. The answer is no. It's a huge misconception. So one of the cool things I learned is that it wasn't uses of real photos. What was interesting was that long ago, id actually took pictures of G.I. Joe figures strung up and, of course, drew over them to make the infamous classic dark hanged victims in the certain portions and stages of the game. So there you go. For those that still think that, hey, they used actual corpses or used actual images to paint over corpses and are disrespectful about it, it's like, well, no, actually they used G.I. Joe figures. They used vintage G.I. Joe toys, the 60s types, and strung them up on string on fake nooses to make them look like the hung victims that they would draw over. So yeah, there y'all go. That's one thing debunked out of many. Yeah, the only game I grew up with, honestly, was Duke Nukem. And there were a couple other shooters that I ended up coming across years later. Wolfenstein for the PlayStation 2 was another first-person shooter. Then you got your Call of Duties, Medal of Honors, things like that. So I was introduced to first-person shooter genre by 3D Realms Duke Nukem, a rival company to id. I think some of the programmers might have worked. I'm not certain, and you can correct me on this because I would love to learn. But I think if I remember, some id software runners and workers jumped ship to 3D Realms later, I think. Were former workers to id. So, and I mean, when you play Duke Nukem and Doom side by side, the word is almost virtually the same. One thing is that instead of fighting demons, Duke is fighting extraterrestrial alien warriors and warlords and such. Here we have a character named Doom Guy taking on the vast armadas of hell and facing off things like imps and pinkies. So, but I do remember, I've seen the actual, I just can't vaguely remember who it was and I was just a kid. Someone was playing on an old DOS PC, might have been an Apple II or something similar. And I remember just one sight left an impression on me for the rest of my life. I saw a floppy disk, and I remember those factory smooth little scan printed out labels over it, and I remember in all caps and all in black there was a word Doom, and I was kind of curious, asking, what is Doom? And I was shown the game, and it left me like, whoa. It was very gnarly, and it was very crazy looking. I didn't understand what it was all about. Again, I was like maybe 8, 7 or so. Maybe even 6. Probably 7 at least. I was young. I was a young kid. I just came across and saw this game on screen, and like, I wasn't really interested into it yet, but it left an impression on me of like one of those very long-winded side interests, and like, hey, I'll probably remember that down the road or something, or maybe not. Who knows? It was a gamble. Well, here we are today, looking through the bowels of Doom. But yeah, id released conceptual art. And the freaky deaky revenants that have those annoying homing missiles, mind you. You could see that back in the times with id and with many video game companies, they would make sculptured figures in order to scan and to later draw into the game to become actual sprites. I think is very badass. Like, even down, look at that, even down to their death animation. They're sprawled onto the ground. I love that. It's just a plethora of archives and conceptual, basically just concept art here and there, showing how and when this became a thing and how much effort it took even back in the early 90s to make a game. Can you imagine these freaky looking sculpts and how much they might be worth in a collector's market? Like, can you imagine just having one on shelf or like a little showroom of used concept clay dummies? Now, I don't know if they're still around. They might be. Some might be breaking apart. Some of the clay might be drying out. But it would still be like awesome to see something like that face to face. To actually see what they used for concept art and design. To actually draw over these lifelike sculptures of their in-game enemies and their ideas. To birth them and create them into a game. I think that would be a swell thing if that were the case for me, and maybe for y'all, whoever's listening, to actually meet somebody that would have something like that and actually would share a little bit of that history with us, because that would be extremely badass if that was the case. You got different concept art for before the finalization of the weapons used, and of course what would be the final product in the game. All these weapons. And items. I remember a lot of video games I loved and grew up with, and I think it's sad and silly and kind of stupid that the Red Cross would be that offended. So a lot of modern games still use the Red Cross to an extent, albeit they differentiate it like with a green cross or a blue cross, but not the classic typical red that sadly has been associated with, of course, the uptick of violence and such. But in my mind, it's like, I mean, I was used to the Red Cross. That was a signifier that, yeah, you got health on the way. You get to live to fight a little longer. But it is what it is. Just little huffs and puffs aside. I kind of wish that they showed the actual final products of some of the sprites, because I wanted to show y'all, like I said, the hanging corpses and bodies. These were a couple that were unused that probably would have made things a lot more grim and just grittier than it already was. But the one I'm thinking of is, like, you see one of the Doom guys strung up, just welcoming you horrifically and unopened arms, pretty much stating, yeah, you're in for a hell of a time, literally in hell. Got mugshot animations, the very infamous, I think it's called the ouch face. I always found that the face, besides being a carryover from Wolfenstein 3D, that was another game I always wanted to play as a kid. And I have Wolfenstein 3D on the system too, albeit I'm not very pleased with the audio soundtrack for it. I think that's the only weakest thing I don't like on the Xbox version. It is what it is, though. It's pretty close and faithful to the port. It plays very smooth. It looks good. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds off versus one of the ones I've listened to, I think, on computer. Different uses of the Doom logo. Some of the background imagery that was planned to be used. Some of the backdrops, I will admit, are very unnerving. Like, I'm trying to remember what that one I like is. I think it's supposed to be like a mock-up photo of the animators or something that look like screaming damn faces on the wall. Y'all might know what I'm talking about, and we'll probably see it soon on one of the Let's Plays of this game. That will be coming right up. This is just a small introduction. Think of it as the next one, a continuation of this. This is just a warm-up for fun. So yeah, you have a treasure trove of id. Id sprites and unused pieces of animations and such, and used concept art of what was put into the game, heart and soul. And that's pretty much it. This game does have a lot. Like, it has a lot. Hours and hours of content right here, just even right on the screen as I'm looking. Besides the two duology and the mods. I mean, there's a lot to work with. And anyone that's interested, and after surviving, joining me on these two adventures of the main Dooms, good news, I do happen to have a huge virtual archive of the rest of them on the Xbox. I purchased them when they were all on sale. Doom 64, there's Doom 3. The only Doom I don't have is, I do happen to have the Doom remake that was like 2014 or something, or 16. One of those modern remasters. The only one I don't have yet is Eternal. That seems to be a mixed bag with the fandom, but I'd like to play that just because I love chronological order and such, and just to see the entirety of the franchise. But yeah, so I'm going to end the video here, and I encourage you to go to the next one, because that's where we're going to begin our first playthrough of the actual game. So stick around, y'all. The fun has only just begun. Later.